Maybon Walford Turp comes in for the injured captain Coyne. Bradley Heron, Walker Chapman. Tallis is in. Hardy goes to the bench. Brown, Stevens, Barnhill, Goulet and Mackay. Brian Smith is the coach, with probably the most troubles in the Winfield Cup at the moment. And Western Suburbs, they come on out. They're only 2 points behind St George on the league ladder. Jim Sedaris is the captain these days, and this is their lineup that'll be on show before the Adelaide crowd tonight, and of course on the 9 cameras. Leeds, Smith, McGarry, McGuinness, Willis, Georgialis, Alchin, Stewart, Sedaris, Grief, Carney, Affleck and Langmack, and Warren Ryan is the coach of Western Suburbs. Stephen Clark is one of our young referees and one of our very good men with the whistle. Western Suburbs running from the Torrens River end towards the Cathedral end, and there's the start of Friday night football. Off the boot of Andrew Leeds, down for Damien Chapman to send David Barnhill back and to the defence line about 18 metres out from his own line. Walford is the dummy half now as he scampers infield to be met by the Magpies and put down by the second rower Glenn Grief. Brown a dummy half, and then Stevens. Jason is out to the 30-metre point. His brother Paul on the bench again as Brown works it across to the left for Goulet, and close to the ruck. Handles it all right, but he is of course much more effective out wider than now Brad Mackay. Saints have been down here to play matches against Balmain, Canberra and Brisbane. One of the more memorable matches that we've seen on the Nine Network, of course, was against Brisbane. The kick off the boot of young Walker, finding the line. It was a good kick. He's like everybody else in pretty much strange territory, and this scrum will form about 15 metres out from the Western Suburbs line. There's the kick on replay.
And a very positive set of 6 there to start the game. Support players on both sides of the ruck, and a good kick at the end there. I know we made plenty of it in the preview, but it will be interesting to see how psychologically St George do come up. There you see their respective positions on the table, 11th and 12th, 12 and 10 points for the two sides. Remember, Parramatta were beaten 64 to 12 in a game a couple of years ago. And all of a sudden the self-doubt starting to come in. That's what Saints have to overcome.
Langmack offering his services to take it out. The hard yards to be made now from inside their own 20-metre line. And that is Mark Affleck, formerly with the Balmain Club, and Brian Smith, of course, as I said, the coach with the biggest headache in rugby league these days. Sedaris opting to work it away to the left, and taking it ahead is Glenn Grief. He was with the Parramatta Club. He didn't see any first-grade football from memory, and chose to change to Magpie territory as Maybon brings the ball back to 32 metres out from his own line. Walford a dummy half, away to the right, pursued by Langmack, but tidied up on a fairly wide blind side over there by Jason Alchin, and a penalty goes to St George against the West defenders.
St George player held down or pulled back in the tackle there by Jason Alchin. Ricky Walford pulled down. Saints look all right so far.
Jason Alchin, of course, the number 7 for West, formerly with the Canterbury Club, and he's seen a lot of positions on the rugby league field, particularly fullback and hooker, as well as the number 7, which is his favourite position. This is Jason Stevens now, and St George are about 15 metres into West territory with that face ball across for Gordon Tallis. And Carney in the headgear coming over the top to clamp a 3-man tackle. Now Mackay looking for an opening, and again to the fore Glenn Grief and Stephen Carney, who captained the New Zealanders in England on their most recent tour. Walker stands one of the Western Suburbs defenders up, unable to get past the defence of the forwards though. And Brown works it away to the right, dropped onto the boot there by Gordon Tallis, and he finds the line. It mightn't have been the right play, but the scrum will go down close to the Western Suburbs line.
He's a talented kid, Gordon Tallis. A pretty important night for a lot of the St George forwards out there, especially those with kangaroo aspirations. Jason Stevens was touted as the best front row prospect for a long, long time. Had that bad hand injury, of course. Missed a lot of games. Scott Goulet, Brad Mackay, they would all come in to consideration for that tour. They need to finish strongly the next 8 games.
Well, the Magpies, again, working out of that corner over in the Edwin Smith stand corner of the ground. For those of you that know Adelaide Oval, West are running away from the Sir Donald Bradman stand end. or the river end of the ground. Of course, Paul Vorton would be more familiar with Adelaide Oval than most commentators, having done cricket here in the most recent summer.
That's right, Ray.
Down on the sidelines with us is Steve Roach again tonight.
Yeah, just talking to Jason Stevens, making his presence felt early in this match, made some bumping runs. When you're down and out like St George are at the moment, you look to young fellas to try and carry you through the hard times.
I think that's Steve Georgalis down receiving attention. So he played the ball. He got a couple of swinging arm from Jason Stephen. Looked like it had done that much damage. Obviously made a bit of contact on the left side of the head there.
Welcome back. The start of round 15 of the Winfield Cup. Western St George, and of course both battling for survival. Georgalis and able to get a pass away. Darren Smith it is with the ball. Darren Willis, I should say, with the ball. Scored 3 tries it was last weekend against the Coast, and now from Alchin across for Sidaris, out in the 5/8 position at second receiver. When Barnhill puts him down, Western Suburbs, they haven't been down in this territory before tonight. Brent Stewart, the Kiwi, he's put down now. That's exactly where they are, just out from the 20-metre line. Stewart, a Kiwi rep in 92 and 93. Carney, of course, a more recent addition to the New Zealand lineup. The ball played, they come right. Alchin across for Langmack. Langmack, a great ball player. Leeds comes onto the ball. Now Smith goes across the line. Well, they made it look so simple, and St George's defence fell apart. Paul Smith gets the try. 14 minutes gone, and the Magpies in front 4-0.
This player here is the important player because it forced the St George defence to come in. That allowed Andrew Lees plenty of space out wide. So again, the support players created the gap for Andrew Leeds. There's the cover from Damien Chapman. Not good enough. And Paul Smith, as we pointed out before in other coverages, really can get across the line.
And both Graham Bradley and Ian Heron have come up with fried eggs here. They've come up with nothing. I thought Francois Despard was out there for a minute. Very poor defence by Saints out wide. And Paul Smith gets his 11th try.
A rehearsed play. It came off with clockwork precision. Leeds now from 10 metres in. He's just put a bit of a bend on it. No conversion. And the Magpies, after 16 minutes, lead St George 4-0. St George now coming away from the grubbing kick down the ground by the Magpies, and this is Walford. Maybon serving it up for Bradley, who, as you can see, is a big man. He doesn't mind coming in and taking some forward plays. Walker tries to stand up Damien McGarry, unsuccessful. Carney's tackle rate must be high. He mightn't necessarily be making the first tackle, but he's coming in with a lot of assists as a second tackle. Mackay now as they approach the halfway line. Brown. Goulet. On tackle number 5 now. 4-0 in favour of Western Suburbs. And almost a quarter of the game gone as Andrew Walker's kick across the ground. And you'll notice, mistake over there by Willis. Picked up by the St George number, a fresh player. Oh, it's Rex Turp, it is, my apologies, in 42.
Western Suburbs have given away exactly the same penalty that Rex Turp was guilty of earlier in the game. The tackle already completed. It was a missed kick by Andrew Walker, his second of the game, but it put pressure on the winger. So too did Ricky Walford. Now you see Turp pick the ball up, and then the second tackle ruled by the referee. So a great chance for the Dragons.
Turp wearing jumper number 42. St George on the attack. Brown across the ground, throwing dummy after dummy. But Georgalis didn't buy it. They force him back down. It could have brought a penalty. And now Goulet goes for the line. Gets very close to it. Brown a dummy half. They're only a half a metre away. They come to the left for Chapman, and then the pass across for Walker. Infield for Bradley. Bradley away from Georgalis, and now Mackay loses the ball. And the Magpies have got it through Mark Affleck. Smith goes in to take a play, a forward play. This is the St George attack breaking down.
This was a chance for St George there. Brad Mackay, was he taken out in the tackle before he got the ball? I don't know. Hard to tell from that picture, but Saints, when they get down near the line, aren't using the width of the field. They're playing in a little corridor, 5 metres either side of the ruck, and West are finding that very easy to handle defensive-wise.
I don't think they're playing with enough depth either, Paul. They're very flat, which is fair enough in your own territory. You want to play flat down there, but you want to be deep down the other end as Carney takes it over halfway. Almost beats the first line. Bigger men much harder to stop when they've got a head of steam.
Western Suburbs, when they have got the ball, they're making more inroads than St George. There seems to be, as Paul pointed out, there's more space in the Western Suburbs attack. St George easy to defend against because they're playing very tight. Wests are prepared to give the ball a bit of air. Played by Grief now. 6 more tackles is with them, the Magpies. Brent Stewart is pulled down by Andrew Walker and Brad Mackay, for whom there was a handful there in defence. And now it's Sidaris turning it inside for Affleck, bustling his way up towards the 20-metre line. Sidaris going into acting half again, and now for Alchin. He holds it back and serves it on for Georgialis. He gets a pass around the corner for Alchin to promote Sidaris. Sidaris tries to get away from Barnhill and Tallis. He's unsuccessful, and that's the 20-metre line just in front of him as Langmack pushes it on to the blind side. And this is McGuinness. McGuinness, who played on Wednesday night for the junior Kangaroos. He played on the wing that night, playing in the centres for the Magpies. Langmack across for Alchin. Alchin goes to the air, puts the bomb into the corner, and Walford goes high and comes down with it. So the Saints back on their own line, and a penalty goes to them now.
Won't they be thankful for that one? Marcus ruled not to have been in the correct position there by the referee. And all of a sudden for St George last week starts to become a little bit important. They've thrown everything at the Magpies in the first 20 minutes of this game and have not been able to get across the line. Of course, they failed to do exactly that last week.
5-2 the penalty count to St George. And the tap sees Goulet force it out about 28 metres away from his own line. Brown cross now for Gordon Tallis. George on 12 points on the league ladder, and in the mind of Paul Vaughton, they can still make the 5. Paul is working on the theory that 26 points will get you there. Stevens plays it. A Western Suburbs player is down injured in the background as Chapman makes a cutting run through and gets over the halfway mark.
We've still got a West player down in back play. Sure, maybe Brent Stewart down. This flick pass from Nathan Brown finds Maybon, who kicks the football. Stewart was hurt trying to tackle Gordon Tallis as Lee picks up 5 metres out from his own line, goes to centre field.
Leeds pulled down by Brown and Goulet, both of whom have been prominent in defence for St George. This is McGarry losing his footing. And we had that same complaint. Now Stewart is back on his feet, so he appears okay again. And this is Glenn Grief now to play the ball just inside his 30-metre line. I was about to say, we've had complaints from players here at the Adelaide Oval previously about how slippery it can get out there. Sidaris turning it inside for an angled run by Carney. Carney able to stand. This St George defence is not putting the Magpies away. And now McGarry goes back into the traffic zone and is pulled down by Stevens.
Stewart has actually left the field for Western Suburbs on the 5th tackle now. They're down to 12 men with Alchin. A little chip might find his winger.
He certainly might. In fact, Darren Willis was there very quick over a short course, and Darren makes a good run, takes it down to the 30. Alchin puts the kick in again. He was tackled late, but the referee saw it and said play on. Walford is with it for St George, though.
And that's the second time Walford's taken pressure kicks for St George. Saints are playing like a team who are under a heap of pressure, which they are, of course, and West are playing like a side who are just out there to enjoy themselves. This sort of football is great to watch. And Willis, they really nearly finished it off here with a try. Alchin, that was the best option for him, and Walford was the man on the spot.
This is Jeff Hardy now. Not long into the game. And Chapman being utilised, a dummy half, waiting for Nathan Brown to get into his position following the scrum. Stevens working at close quarters with Goulet, and Sidaris was waiting for him. Tackles him right on the cricket pitch, just into Western Suburbs area. Brown across for Stevens. Stevens looked to pass, but Western Suburbs are coming up in this umbrella defence. A defensive pattern that Warren Ryan made famous, I suppose, is the word. Back in Canterbury days, they used to umbrella up and channel the attack back in, and nobody used it better than Warren Ryan coached sides. And this Magpies unit is doing it tonight.
And then they'd smash you.
They'd
smash you then with Gillespie and Folks.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'd know better than anybody.
Yeah.
Leeds now.
Gillespie.
Oh, brushed him a few times.
Oh, step around him all the time. But this West side, they're playing very well tonight. Warren Ryan deserves some credit for still having some spirit there. They're running, they've only won 5 games out of 14, but they're changing angles, and something St George are not doing. Saints, on their last set, they only made 20 metres. And, I mean, they're not changing angles. They need some skill to put on, maybe a run around or even the chip kick. Well, they've got to do something to get going forward.
I guess that's why Mundine has come into the game, Paul. An exciting player with the football is Grief. Straight up the middle. Again, finds an easy 20 metres. Good determined run. That's the last.
So the Magpies, as you can see in contrast with what they've done in the last 4 tackles, when they get the football, they're able to make good ground. But St George tend to bog down. There doesn't seem to be too much variation in what they're doing. Shields is on and Affleck is off as Brown serves it across for Bradley, and he loses his footing. And he won't be the last to do that tonight on this pitch, particularly with a bit of dew around. And this is Hardy. But even in daylight conditions, I can recall the Canberras and the Brisbanes having similar problems. Look at this defence from the Magpies. Good driving stuff from Tierney. Chapman now putting it over the heads of the 3/4. A good bounce for St George. Can they capitalise? Welford does well, and then this Magpie over there, Darren Willis, he was on his own some, and he did well. Leads now.
If he doesn't take the intercept there, Darren Willis, it's a try. You can see they're onside, and it was a good bounce, as you pointed out, Ray, back towards the St George chasers. And have a look, there's 2 men inside, Turp, Barnhill and Mackay, 3. We'll pass that a founder's mark, it's all over.
It was like a shag and a rock back there. He had to do something, Darren Willis, and he came up with the right play. Grief. Just his own side of the halfway mark. And now for Carney, who's really caused problems for St George. And now the Magpies go through 4 sets of hands. The loose ball, Brown can't pick it up. And the knock-on has been ruled by the referee. Western Suburbs leading in a tight game, 4-0 after 35 minutes. Welcome back to the Adelaide Oval. Hosting rugby league again tonight, as it has done annually for the past 3 or 4 years. This is Rex Turp.
Is that once a year?
Annually? Yeah. Well done, Paul. Chapman now, across for Hardy, and then for Stevens. And met by Carney and pulled down in combination with Paul Langmack. And he's lost the ball, Stevens, and the referee said he's given it up cold without any help from Western Suburbs. Stevens, his face tells the story.
Well, he's played very strongly tonight, Jason Stevens, been their best forward. Is there a Western Suburbs hand in there? I thought Langmack might have had a grip on the ball as well. So no luck there for St George.
Georgialis now. He's put on the pedal. And Anthony Mundine makes the tackle together with Damien Chapman. I wonder, has Brian Smith used the combination? I'm not aware of it in first grade of Mundine and Walker.
I'm not sure, Ray. I would imagine not, as again, Western Suburbs string together some passes. The word is that is not the case. So we're going to have to form a combination fairly quickly out there. Oh, nearly an intercept taken by Turp.
So Andrew Walker back on the bench at the moment, and he's only one of several Dragons that have got some worries on their mind as the scoreboard continues to look down on them. 4-0 in favour of Wests, well, just for one try.
He was very quiet out there, wasn't he, Ray? But you would expect that, I suppose, with the Western Suburbs defence working so well. Maybe when the fatigue factor starts to come in for the Maggies, he might be able to find a little bit of space. He's got great evasion, Andrew Walker. We saw that in their last game against Cronulla.
So here's Western Suburbs now through their 5/8, being forced back, in fact. Steve Georgialis, it was said, was going to join the Western Reds of Perth, but apparently that all broke down, and he's been declared a free agent. Algin working off the blind and running some angles now, and put to ground is Glenn Grief under the the fairly big frame of Graham Bradley. They're just outside the 20-metre line as Alchin gives a short ball away. And Neil Tierney is met by 3 of the St George defenders. Jeff Hardy, Jason Stevens, Nathan Brown. Last tackle gone. Dummy half is Jim Sedaris. He got a fairly slow play. The ball puts the kick through, and St George required to put their body on the line. Rod Maybon does that.
Oh, wonderful play by Rod Maybon. You could see Sedaris coming at him, but he still went for the ball, and that's a very gutsy play.
Here's Walford now, being wrapped up by Georgianis as he comes away from his own line. The kick through by Sedaris. It was a good play, and Maybon had to throw himself in front of the flying legs and feet of Jim Sedaris. Played now by Mundine as Brown serves it up to the open side for Brad Mackay. St George slogging it outside the 20-metre line, and in fact beyond the 30-metre point. As Chapman puts the kick up again, Leeds goes back, running backwards, and takes a nice catch back on his own 20-metre line. He runs back to be met by Goulet and Brown. They, more than anybody, have been clogging up the centre for the Dragons. McGarry looking for traction on this pitch, and it's not there for him either. Georgialis pursued by Mundine around the legs. He takes him, and Brown goes over the top. 42 metres out from the St George line we are, with Sedaris, and putting his hand up for a bit of service is Peter Shields. The ball goes to ground. Goulet dives on it, and referee Clark quite properly applies the advantage rule. Chapman now trying to get away from dummy half. That tackle looked like it might have stung him a bit. Langmack was low, and he copped a knee from Carney. And this is Maybon scampering away to the halfway mark. Chapman has to duck in to half-back, or acting half-back, before Stevens goes ahead looking for a runner. It appeared, but too late from Graham Bradley. Now from Brown, across for Chapman. Chapman then for Mackay. And Mackay comes up without the football, but it's a penalty to St George, raked out by Western Suburbs. So now the Dragons will probably take the kick for goal.
Well, they must take a shot for goal here, try and get 2 points on the board, just as a morale booster, a confidence booster for them. That's better play. You saw the halfback drift across the field, looked to turn Mackay back inside, and he found a hole there. So the ball did come out in the end. And so now it looks like Damien Chapman is the man who will attempt to get Saints their first points on the board for 2 weeks.
And Chapman is the appointed first-up kicker for St George. I thought they might have given the ball to Ian Heron. Heron has a higher strike rate than Chapman. Chapman at 71%. Although he's only had 7 shots at goal in first grade, he's kicked 5 out of 7. And Heron 20 out of 26. But the ball has been given to Damien Chapman to take this kick at goal. Right in front, as you can see, and some 25 metres out. Places the ball in more of the traditional style, but he'll still approach it from around the corner. 5 from 7 for the youngster, and this one is straight over the black dot. So Damien Chapman raises the flags, and at half-time, Western Suburbs leads St George by 4 points to 2. Just the one try, scored, of course, by the Magpies.
I think there's a great rivalry with South Africa. They're a terrific team. They have been for a long time. There's a lot of history. It's always a heated, fiery clash.
And look at him, he's pumped up.
It's intense, it's emotional.
Serious drama.
Every single delivery is box office.
Every test match. Live in 4K Ultra HD.
Gordon!
What a rivalry.
Because they count on you, count on it. Australia's only 10-year warranty with 10 years cap price servicing. Mitsubishi 1010. You can count on it.
Oh, look at all the football memorabilia. So beautiful.
Guys, this is worth staring at. Expert tips, match previews, exclusive offers at your local. And every FIFA World Cup match streamed live on Sky.
Do you live in there?
No, I get paid to sit here.
Wow.
Tag, no fan left behind.
You know the score, stay in control, gamble responsibly.
When the mood is, let's do this thing,
You need a coffee that's made for it. McCafe Iced Coffee. Creamy milk over ice.
Nice.
With a chilled kick of rich espresso, it's barista-made, ice cold. Now that's coffee fit for an Aussie.
The only thing you need to catch a huntsman is a clear container.
Okay. My secret to shiny hair.
Game changer.
You can polish your houseplants with milk.
No way.
Did you know you can clean your Barbie with a raw onion?
Holy shit.
There have been thousands of UFO sightings in Australia.
How did I not know this?
How did we not know this? I not know this.
True progress takes no shortcuts. But in the end, it's not about what path you choose. It's how you choose to get there. All electric. Endless adrenaline. It's progress accelerated.
It's what we play in the gyms, the parks, the backyards, and on the street. It's a way of life. When grit and grind take over, it's unmistakable what can be born. Unmissable moments, undeniable talent. 24 on the clock, all eyes on the rock. From street to stadium, country to coast, it's unstoppable. No matter who we are or where we're from, nothing comes close to summer hoops. Hungry Jacks NBL, unrivaled.
This is the world-class league.
Welcome back then to the Adelaide Oval as Brad Mackay starts the second half of this match. Round 15 of the Winfield Cup, and Western Suburbs, the outsiders for the game, leading by 4 points to 2 as Neil Kenny takes the first tackle in this new segment of the game. And that appears to be Brent Stewart back in the field of play. It is. He was taken off injured during the first half. Georgialis, Glenn Grief, in fact, has gone off for the Magpies, and that has brought Stewart back into the game. Carney, if St George are to win the game, has to be contained. That's Carney in the headgear. And now Langmack coming back into the waiting arms of Brad Mackay and David Barnhill. The fifth tackle is with the Magpies. They've struggled their way about 35 metres up the ground on this set. And that kick, unable to find touch, and Walford, perfectly positioned, takes the first tackle for St George in the second half. Maybon, angled run outside the 40-metre line. Let's take a half-time comment from Steve Roach now.
Yeah, well, St George not real happy on their fundamentals. Too many drop balls, too many forward passes. They're saying they're taking too many shortcuts. The coach isn't very happy. He's really blowing up about the shot at goal. He said his team should have took the shot at goal. He said put plenty of pressure on Paul Langmack. He's getting too out wide of the ruck and causing Saints plenty of problem. In the West Room, Warren Ryan the same as silly mistakes. He said we've put 2 kicks down, we've got to improve our kicking game, straight down Roddy Maben's neck. He said we've got to keep changing the point of attack. We'll try and tire out them big St George forwards.
Sunday will be at what will be a classic game of rugby league, I feel, at Marathon between Newcastle and Brisbane. Brisbane with all sorts of disadvantages looking at them, and Newcastle in great form last Sunday against Penrith, as Sedaris' pass is accepted by Goulet, but it's a penalty. That's a very good ruling by this referee.
Yes, you see one of the St George players get a touch, and then in an offside position, his teammate picks up. Sedaris did well to bounce out of one tackle, knocked there by Stevens, picked up by Goulet. Offside. Western Suburbs now go on the attack. Shrew McGuinness gets through the line.
McGuinness looks for support, tries to shovel the pass over for Leeds. Leeds was held back, but that happened after the pass, and the referee is going to order the knock-on against West.
Oh, very exciting player, this Ken McGuinness, as Sedaris drifted across field, opened up the hole for him, had the pace to get through, and luckily for Leeds, he knocked that on.
The scrum 20 metres out from the St George line. And Brad Mackay, harnessed by the Western Suburbs defence, almost put a brace on St George. Stevens breaks through it to the halfway. Support from Maybon. Little Rod Maybon floats the pass out wide. This is Mundine. Yes, gets it down. It's a try to Mundine and to St George.
Well, we saw at half-time they hadn't made a clean break. The first one they do make has seen Mundine score in the corner, and it was beautiful work by their best player of the night, Jason Stevens. Put his bulk on the line here, straight through the tackle of Brent Stewart. Pushed him off, showed a good turn of speed, and a nice drawing pass of Andrew Leach. Rod Maybon was on the fly, got out of McGarry's tackle, and a select pass here. Mundine took the ball on the run, had some work to do to beat Paul Smith, kept his cool.
Oh, yeah, great St George try. Look at the power of Stevens as he burst through that hole. Very poor attempt at tackle by Stewart, and then Maybon did the rest, and Mundine out wide. He had Bradley on the inside. Maybon chose Mundine on the outside. Nice fend. So Saints, they needed that one.
You see Mundine had the ball in the right arm.
Damien Chapman kicking into the Cathedral or scoreboard corner. Some beautiful pictures here at the Adelaide Oval. Provided, of course, through the summer of cricket, and with the Cathedral illuminated. It's a lovely setting. Chapman's kick offline, though, but the St George side for the first time in the game. They are the leaders on that scoreboard by 6 points to 4. 47 minutes gone in the game. Friday night rugby league around Australia on the Nine Network. And tonight coming to you from South Australia. David Barnhill just outside the 30-metre point. And now Goulet. Saints lifting now. Inspired by the work of Jason Stevens. Bradley runs to the defence line, looks for Ian Heron down that left flank. And Heron made to play the ball just into West area. Chapman calls for it, but Brown ignores the call, goes down the line as he sees a little gap in behind the play the ball. Here's Jason Stevens once more.
Well, just look what difference a try has made to St George. 5 rucks and they've made 70 metres, so they've lifted, no doubt about that. Now a short kick by Chapman.
It's a good kick too, but Andrew Leeds, one of the real professionals that wears the number 1, right up above them, eyes on the ball and snuffing out a chance of another St George try.
It's still a very good result for the Saints there. Chapman kicking back for his chasers. And the momentum of Andrew Leeds takes him into touch, so it's a St George feed. They've started this second half in flying fashion.
So the Dragons with a great opportunity. Anthony Mundine angling his captain Bradley back infield. Bradley big and strong, getting to within a couple of metres of the line. They're about 10 metres off centre. Bradley playing it back for Brown, and he sends Stevens ahead, and he's over to put it down. Jason Stevens made the try just a couple of minutes ago, and now he brushes aside some feeble Western Suburbs defence to get his own try.
Ah, good stuff there by Jason Stevens. But see, St George, Brian Smith has done well. He's got them to drift across field, change the angles. Twice in a row here. Bradley made the first break, Stevens the second, and gets the ball down right there.
And the marker's up high there. You see Brent Stewart, the number 8. Really, by the time he'd made a decision, it was too late. Paul Langmack had got tangled up in the play the ball. Tries to keep it out with his boot, but Jason Stevens puts the hands up, says to the referee, yes, there it is.
Young Chapman taking his 3rd shot at goal, and this one is straight between the uprights, so St George extend their margin after 50 minutes of the game to 12-4 over the Magpies. Jason Stevens, of course, has climbed the ladder of fame very, very quickly. I guess we put a lot of pressure on these young lions of the game by giving them the raps that we do, and Jason is a perfect example of a young man probably trying to do more than his coach really wants him to do, particularly given the scoreboard situation now, because they're in front 12-4. Sidaris plays it just into St George's area. Gordon Tallis, talking of young lions, is getting ready to come back into the game. Ball played by Carney. Tallis, incidentally, Paul Horton, his favourite TV show, I read, is The Footy Show.
Well, naturally.
Georgialis, an expected answer from the fat man. Up they go. Maybon can't get to it. He had his own and Buckley's of getting a touch on it. The Magpies come down with it. They've got 6 more tackles. That's how close they are to the line. As Jim Sidaris is held by Goulet. White goes into dummy half. And he looks for a call. Neil Tierney goes charging at the line. He throws his frame at them, and he's that close.
Josh White, the man to watch, along with Jim Sedaris. Very dangerous.
Sedaris gives it for Shields. Shields held. He can almost fall over now and fall over the line, but the Dragons not letting him. Josh White, a little juggle of the football, then back for Langmack. Langmack for Leeds, and Leeds gets the try. Well, nobody's more deserving of it than Andrew Leeds, but again, it stamps the class of Paul Langmack. He operated successfully for the first try, and now he's combined to make the second.
Yes, lovely work by Paul Langmack. In the end, it was a speculator of a pass. He popped up. A fumble there. Langmack hits the ball, it hits the hole at space. It just pops one up. And who's there? Andrew Leeds. Big hole. Just ran past David Barnhill like he wasn't even there.
And Barnhill has been replaced. Paul Stevens goes on. Barnhill could be said to have gone missing in defence on that last try, and Leeds capitalises on the try and converts. So the Magpies are back. 12-10 down, 57 minutes gone in Friday Night Rugby League. So the restart of play as we welcome you back to Adelaide, and 12-10, a close one in the opening match of the 15th round of the 1994 Winfield Cup. 8 rounds to go. Some changes in the St George camp, and West in arrears. 12-10. Penalty goes to them, the men in black and white. Tierney objecting to some treatment from Jeff Hardy. Stephen Clark, the young referee, doing a fine job here tonight. And Andrew Leeds is too, as he finds the line about 5 metres into St George's area. Penalties favour the Dragons, 7-4.
Neil Tierney, the former Saints player, now with West, has really lifted this West side the last 5 minutes. A couple of barnstorming runs, and he would love nothing more than to beat his old club.
Josh White, Parramatta Junior, went to Canterbury, then to East. Should I say he went from Canterbury to West and then to East and then back to West. So he's a travelled young man. Tierney now, thundering ahead. Sedaris goes from dummy half. We haven't seen Jim do a lot of running in the game. Langmack combines with McGarry. Sedaris supports, then puts on the flick. Paul Smith, who scored the try, gets to the last line of defence before Maybon and Heron combine. Carney the dummy half. White with the ball. Shields goes back in. Beats Mackay. The pass, he throws it with his back turned. And nearly paid the penalty. Penalty goes to Western Suburbs. They don't want the kick at goal. Sedaris now, 12 metres out from the line. Right in front of the uprights. That's how close they are. Can the Magpies score? Tierney now, again, throwing himself at the defence. Tallis makes the tackle. Sedaris with a long pass. White runs at Tony Mundine and Scott Gourlay. St George can thank their lucky stars for Gourlay. He's made a lot of good tackles, and tackles that have to be made. This is Stewart now, the New Zealand prop. He plays it. Tierney looks for it, runs decoy for White, then Langmack, now Carney. Carney gets across the line. Did he get it down? No.
And you won't see a closer near try than Stephen Carney. He's over the line. It looked like it might have been the knees or the legs of the tackler that has kept him from scoring. Graham Bradley hanging on his shoulders. Well, he's done a great job, Bradley, there. How Carney didn't get the ball down with that momentum is incredible.
A magnificent piece of play there by Bradley, but once again we've seen a team with a dead set 2 points in offer.
Can you believe that?
They just pulled Basil out, they've brushed it, and really players these days are undermining the value of the 2 points. It was a gimme, and I mean it may cost them 12 all with 15-20 minutes to go. Pretty handy for West.
Well, Paul Langmack's in a lot of trouble here. I fancy it might be a dislocated elbow. He came in contact with Gordon Tallis. I recall having seen that. And there it is. Tallis gets him there with the leg, quite accidental, and I would suppose there's a chance that I'm right, that it is that left elbow of Paul Langmack's that may have popped out. He's packed into the scrum, so Whatever it was, he's got some feeling back in it. And again, an opportunity for the Magpies to put pressure on them. They've gone very deep in attack, going back to go forward. Damien McGarry is tackled, 15 metres out from the line. Paul Smith, a dummy half. And this is Georgalis, and he's tidied up by Paul Stevens and Brad Mackay. The line just 10 metres in front of them, trailing by 2 points. And this is Tierney, leading by example. Tierney put away. 61 minutes of the match gone, so plenty of time. Makes me wonder really why they didn't take what was a certain 2 points right in front. Now it's back for McGuinness, and he's forced down by Rex Turp and Paul Stevens. Sedaris goes himself, turns it back for Josh White, and White is held again by Paul Stevens and Rex Turp. Sedaris to dummy half on the 5th. This is the kick coming off the boot of Georgalis into the end goal, marked on the full by Maybon. So the Dragons come out to the 20-metre line.
It's a really poor kick, that one. Rolling it into the in-goal area would have been a far better option. No chases back that way. The kick wasn't a well-directed one, and an easy catch for Maybon. All the pressure off and giving away possession.
Chapman, the ball player. And now the ball carrier is Scott Goulart. Put down heavily. And Steve Georgalis makes another tackle, but he was never directly in front of the man playing the ball, and he's been penalised.
He actually looked as though he'd been hurt in the previous tackle, that's right. Georgalis. That one there. The referee saw that he failed to go back to 10 metres. So from that kick that Maybon fielded in his in-goal area, all of a sudden St George now find themselves 20 metres out from their opponent's line in quick time.
St George get their 8th penalty in the game, and now they go onto the attack 20 metres out from their opponent's line. Bradley playing it back for Nathan Brown. And now with Gordon Tallis. Tallis, of course, at the start of the year, we were talking about all sorts of things for Gordon Tallis. He achieved one of those records with making the State of Origin. This is Paul Stevens now, the elder brother of Jason. Brown turning it back. Chapman comes in and gets it over the line. Try for Damien Chapman. Well, some of these St George tries have really been soft without trying to detract from them, but Western Suburbs, 1 minute they look good, they look great. Next minute they're letting soft tries in against them. 16-10 after 63 minutes.
Once again, it's that inside ball which has found Western Suburbs out. Plenty of defence there, but just ineffective tackling by the Magpies. And so those inside balls now causing West a mile of trouble.
Well, you see the Western Suburbs defence is actually standing back, waiting to see what's going to happen. There's got to be a lot of urgency down that part of the field. You've got to be rushing up. Look, Nathan Brown goes across again. Some markers tangled up there. Sedaris had to come from the other side of Stevens. And they were flat-footed. Damien Chapman coming at them, and that just made the task so much easier.
So, a real problem for Western Suburbs, and of course for their coach Warren Ryan. You've seen it yourself only just a matter of seconds ago. They were down the other end, a chance to level with a penalty. They opted against that. They put a lot of pressure on the St George line, and 5 seconds later, to be almost precise, they're down the other end of the paddock and unable to hold the St George side out. And it wasn't a difficult task to do that. There was plenty of personnel around there, wasn't there?
It's an easy conversion here for Damien Chapman. Will extend that lead to 8 points, to be almost precise.
Oh. It rates against some of your better ones. Chapman converts now. So the Dragons looking just that touch more comfortable. 18 points to 10. 65 minutes gone. Friday Night Football on the Nine Network. Well, this is a very good crowd at Adelaide Oval as we say welcome back again. 18-10 St George after 65. 12,874. And one has to be honest. St George and West not front runners for semi-final contention. To draw that crowd here, it would have to please St George. It's their home game. I doubt that they would have drawn that at home. Mackay now.
Well, there you saw another little ploy there from around the dummy half area, where the ball is basically rolled between the legs to a second dummy half. Brad Mackay was able to make a bust. Full of these little plays around the dummy half area, especially up close to the line.
I thought the referee was going to pull that for maybe an attempted spear tackle, but they pulled out in the end.
Chapman. Name of the game for St George now will be to turn Wests around, keep them down the other end of the park, and St George can roll down the hill to victory by playing percentage football.
Here you see to play the ball, Damien Chapman dummies to pick the football up. Brad Mackay does so and makes a good 15 metres. It was bad marker play, they only had one. A nice little ploy there just to throw some confusion into the opposition defence.
Stewart comes off. 17 tackles in the game for Brent Stewart. He hasn't actually participated all that long. Some movement on the St George bench with Steve Roach.
Yeah, messages coming from the St George bench. Don't push the pass, and when you get the opportunity to pot a field goal, have a go at it.
Alrighty. So Darren Willis for Western Suburbs. Takes it about 25 metres out from his line. Sidaris attempting to run a blindside play, but then channeling in the back, and it's with Leeds now. The last tackle, and Sidaris just pushes it ahead. Oh, it bounced up beautifully for McGuinness. And then it breaks down. That's the turnover.
Oh, wasn't that great play there by Sidaris? A lovely angled kick. And McGuinness followed on with the... He took the ball on the fly, and the inside pass went astray. Otherwise, it was a big chance for Wests.
Saints. Walford. 18-10, the Dragons. Chapman. Goulet. Hammering the attack back in, hoping for a division of the defence back behind to play the ball. And Bradley, the captain for St George, leaves the field in the back play as Tallis makes a break. Inside the 20, gets the pass away, and Rex Turp goes in to score. Turp gets the St George try.
Oh, Gordon Tallis has busted them. The determination took him straight through the front line, and again you've got to say the third soft try that Western had scored against them. What a bullocking run. Nothing on here. Look at the amount of West defence there is. He's gone straight through three of them. Sidaris, the final miss. And then he did well here. He moved across to where his speed men were coming, and a lovely pass to Rex Turp. Put him on the outside of McGuinness. Turp scored wide out. Should wrap it up with not that long to go in this game.
Oh, gee, you come to life there, Pete. You jumped up and down. Very exciting, wasn't it, to see Gordon Tallis go through that. 3 or 4 West players. This is what he was doing 10 weeks ago. He's finally come back to that sort of form. And Turp, a good finisher.
So Rex Turp, from memory, I think he makes a bit of a happy hunting ground of Adelaide Oval. He played in the match we did here last year, and I'm sure he got the ball over the line on that occasion.
He scored the winning try against Brisbane?
No, they failed to run Brisbane down, I think.
He scored the try and they had a conversion to even things up.
That's right. Brisbane led by a big margin, and St George came back, but they weren't able to round the Broncos up. 3 from 4 for Damien Chapman. That's away just across the face. So no addition after 70 minutes. 22-10. The Dragons lead, and another version of the try.
Yeah, look at the power of the man. He's raw-boned. There's nothing fancy about Gordon Tallis. Just natural ability there to break tackles with his very extravagant running action.
The restart for the Western Suburbs Magpies, and now inside the last 10 minutes, practically an impossible task for them to win. Quite an incredible game, really, if you look at it from a Magpies viewpoint. You were quite contented and relaxed, as Warren Ryan would have been at halftime. They had by far the better of the game.
Well, his team's done him proud tonight, Warren Ryan. It's just that their defence in the second half has really dropped off. something dramatically. At 22-10, now's the time where they should be looking for the field goal to wrap the game up.
Yeah, that's the play. It's a good
Brown for Maybon. Maybon breaks into a hole. Tallis is there to support, and the ball comes out for the knock-on, but the advantage applies for the Magpies.
Well, he was trying to get his arms free there, Gordon Tallis. Really didn't need to. He'd done some damage previously. He ran straight into Josh White, who still receives attention as Jim Sedaris, poor ball security, sees the ball come out. Just watch this. Shake of the head there from Jim Sedaris. This is the pass back inside. Beautiful pass from Nathan Brown to Rod Maybon. Finds Gordon Tallis, who'd been involved in the previous tackle. And the ball just came loose. They'll win this scrum, St George. If they don't score a try, you'd think they would have to go for the field goal through Damien Chapman.
So let's watch what they do in these lead-up tackles. Mackay it is, who plays it on the 20-metre line. Chapman sending Park in 45, Scott Park, down to almost the 10-metre line. Nathan Brown, a little scurry from dummy half, a handoff back for Park. Scott Park is put down about 5 metres out from the Magpies line. Dummy half is Nathan Brown. He little handoff for Tallis. He's over again. Gordon Tallis goes in. St George another try. 26-10 after 73. Well, the Magpies off their own line are having trouble handling the St George attack.
Well, there it is again. That's the 4th try they've scored from this particular play. They're drifting across the field, a little inside ball, and the West defence just has not handled it. Tallis, a very big, powerful man. Probably give the credit to Tallis there, because he really stormed over, and strength alone got him over the line.
You see there straight over the top, Peter Shields. And that's the secret of those tries, is a little bit of sleight of hand, but also the momentum with the ball runner coming at such speed.
Once again, Pete, West, they weren't coming off their line. They were standing there like stunned mullets, and that's why Tallis scored.
Graham Bradley, smile on the face. His first time captaining this St George side in first grade. And it will go down as a victory for him.
1 out of 1 for Bradley, eh?
Yeah, Mark Coyne missing this game, and quite an honour when you consider the likes of Brad Mackay in the side. So it would have been a fairly obvious choice, but he's been a good player for the last couple of years, Graham Bradley for St George.
Damien Chapman with the attempted conversion there. 3 out of 5 for Damien Chapman. And the conversion is there. So St George, further 2 points after 74 minutes, leading the Magpies 28-10 at the Adelaide Oval. This is how the most recent try came. And as I said, the Magpies having trouble containing the Dragons, particularly off their own line. So the restart for the Magpies. And Andrew Leeds with the restart. Paul Stevens to bring it back to the defence line. He got away from Georgalis and was pulled down by Sedaris. Reminds me to wish a happy birthday on your behalf, all rugby league supporters. A happy birthday to the big Australian captain, Mal Meninga, who celebrates his 34th birthday today. So on your behalf, I wish him a happy birthday. Maybon plays it 40 metres out from his own line. And David Barnhill hands it back for Nathan Brown. And the ball comes out. That ball went forward. And Tallis is everywhere at the moment. There's been a newfound enthusiasm in the St George play in the second half, and more particularly in the last 15-20 minutes. Scrum near the halfway. Work by Josh White. Cross the face of the Leeds to McGarry, and standing right up on him was Park. Georgalis. Kai and Paul Stevens with Nathan Brown making the tackle. Footy show on Sunday with Paul and all his guests. You've got I believe the jockey's coming on in the Brains train.
That's the week after. We've got a special edition. We've got the 3 jocks on, Mickey Dittman. This week we've got Jeff Hardy, Duncan McRae and David
Here's
Fairley.
a half-break
West goes
call.
through.
Sorry for interrupting by McGuinness. The Magpies with a chance here. Sidaris will come back to that as he stands, and the penalty goes to Western Suburbs. Sidaris takes a quick tap and gets over the line, and referee Clark gives the try. Referee Clark gives the try off one of those controversial kicks that has attracted our attention on a number of occasions. This was not the tap free kick, but in fact the penalty kick. Now watch it.
Well, the referee was right in awarding the decision. No way they were within 10, but he's just run up, kicked the ball forward, and gone over.
So Jim Sidaris gets the try. And that area of criticism of what kick is legal and what kick isn't legal is opened up again.
See there, the point of the ball does finally reach the ground. Park screaming that he got his hand under it, and you could see the hand was. Finally, the point of the ball touched the ground, and that was enough.
Quite a remarkable effort by Jim Sidaris. Looking for a century of points as Andrew leads, and there it is. Sidaris' try converted, lifting Andrew's total to the century. 28-16, St George over the Magpies with just a couple of minutes remaining. And here it is again, the penalty taken by Sidaris quickly, and simply kicking the ball in the air, remarking, and then charging over the line. And having done that, I interrupted what we can expect on the footy show on Sunday.
We'll have David Fairley on to talk about the test match the other night. Australia beating France 58 blot, and also about North's big game this weekend. And plenty of guests, plenty of mayhem. Steve Roach, of course, will be there. Snorky Sterling will be there.
As St George come back to launch what will be probably their last attacking raid of the match. Close to full time, 25 metres out. Ricky Walford. White underneath, Sidaris over the top. Ansett Airlines make the Man of the Match award of a Friday night, $1,000. And it could be this bloke, Scott Goulet, throwing the pass out for Ian Heron to get his try. Ian Heron scores for St George in the dying seconds of the game, and again, Scott Goulet to the fore. 32-16 now.
Well, they finished with a flourish. From the kickoff, Andrew Leach drove the football down. St George came up with possession. Goulet straight through the tackle of Damien McGarry. Long pass to Ian Heron, who beats the tackle of Paul Schmidt to score in the corner. Wasn't necessarily needed, but it's always a nice way to finish.
No, we've given plenty of raps to the Saints players tonight. Jason Stevens, but Goulet hasn't been far behind him. And that's a beautiful long ball out to Heron. A good finish for Saints in this game tonight. They've, as I said before, they've got a very good run home, St George, in these last now 7 games they've got. They've got 2 hard matches, 2 particularly hard games in Penrith and Brisbane. But the other matches, I think they'd nearly be expected to win most of them.
Yeah, well, that match against Brisbane is on their home soil, and it's a match that you've budgeted for them to win. Losing 1 game in the run down to the semi-finals would give them 26.
Well, I believe the first 4 teams at the moment, I think they'll make the 5, and the rest of them will fight out. I believe that they may finish on 26 Saints and be in at least a playoff for that spot.
Just been a big second half from them, 30 points. So it's 4-2 down at half-time.
Chapman from the sideline unsuccessful, so he finishes with the figures of 4 from 7. Damien Chapman, 32 points to 16 though.